Welcome back to another episode of Hermitcraft. Behind me you can see what we did in the last episode, and I'm recording this one literally moments after the last episode ended. That's because I am on a tight schedule to get this new project underway. Us Hermits are all going to team up together and do something truly epic, that is build a massive, mahoosive nether hub together. And I have been putting together all of the things to make that happen. There is a story to be told here, so we shall start this episode off by heading into the Nether, as there is some sort of rumblings of a Nether hub in here. But it has been born out of two things: bad communication and not being able to make up our minds on what we wanted to do. Now, this is the Hermitcraft server, okay? Things on here get done on a truly large scale, and when we fail to agree on what exactly it is we could do in the Nether this season on a large scale, we decided to fall back to the idea of a patchwork hub, which is where the hubs focus on a small collection of portals, like these shopping ones could be linked together, and then you have a series of smaller rooms linking to other rooms, and it's our way of sort of saying, you know, we don't really have something massive for the Nether hub this season, so we'll do something simple. And born of miscommunication, we have this beautiful room right here. I love it. I'm not knocking this at all. I think it's a really great build. It's got a nice feel to it. But unfortunately, as you can see over there are some issues with it. It goes over some of the other areas we had planned for rooms, and the mood among the hermits has been that we do actually want to do something big. You can actually see under here some like cobblestone blocks from these markers where I had marked out where this room would be. So it was supposed to be a series of rooms kind of linked together. And anyway, we have now all agreed on something that we are going to do together. In fact, we spent several hours in a meeting all working on another server to create something absolutely amazing for the Nether this season. And I know some of y'all are going to say this because we had a little bit of an issue earlier on in the season with Wells's sheep farm, and now Wells's Nether hub will no longer be. So please go to the comment and put, like, you know, hashtag #AsumaHates Wells Night, hashtag Wells Night Conspiracy, and let's drown out those silly comments that actually think there is some sort of beef between, you know, one hermit or the other. We're adults, we're a group, we all get along, and we work and play together here on the server, and we all do things that we agree on, and we have all agreed on this amazing project that we'll be undertaking today. So drown out those silly comments of people who think there is some sort of conspiracy going on. You know, in editing, that sounds kind of silly. Let me point something out here. I can be a little bit sensitive when I read my comments. I can take it a little too seriously. If someone types, you know, "Oh, Asuma hates Wells," that actually gets to me. I'm like, no, that's not the case at all, and I really wish you would understand it. So I'm only saying this so that I can read my comments and not see those comments because all of the ones that I asked for are there. Does that make sense? Anyway, where do we get started on how to build this Nether hub? We're actually going to go through the creative process that happens before anything happens in survival together. I've been working tirelessly on this the last week, and then we all got together and finalised the plans. So let's start where I started, and let's see how this project is going to come together. So it all starts with this image right here. This is a render of the Hermitcraft seed in 1.12. I don't think it's possible to do the render in 1.13. So you'll notice that icebergs and maybe a couple of other features are missing, but that is our Hermitcraft world. And this image was created by a moderator in my community by the name of Garth. If you happen to be watching, my friend, thank you so much for doing this. You'll see it gets put to good use. And I don't know what program was actually used for this, but he was able to make a 1x1 block render. So as we zoom in here, you'll see that every single block is represented in this image. The next step was then to shrink the map by a factor of 8, meaning every pixel represented 8 blocks of the previous image, which is the same scale as the Nether. So it will be, for one block in the Nether, it will be 8 in the overworld. And of course, we're building this as the Nether hub. The next step is a crucial one, and it's only possible thanks to MCStacker.net's mural generator. We can import an image here, and then we can convert that image into actual Minecraft blocks in our world. Here we can set the scale to 1. I've noticed that now. What's funny about that is that I could have just uploaded the original image and then set the scale to 8, I believe. unless that makes it 8 times bigger. But anyway, we're getting distracted. We then need to set the placement. Now we're going to be building this on the ground, and we want it to be rotated in the same direction of the world. So that means we select this one here. On ground, top of the image is to the north. The next step is to choose the blocks that we want the image to be made out of inside the Minecraft game. And we start off by actually excluding all blocks because most of the textures are pretty noisy, and we want to do this in a way where we simplify the map and make it really easy to read in the Nether. So we're actually going to select the blocks we're going to use one by one. So this is our selection. It's not a lot at all, and maybe even the clay is a little unnecessary. We don't want to add a lot of textures over here because it's basically going to create a lot of noise when you have a large mix of textures together. So we're simplifying this. We've got sand and sandstone for the beaches, we've got a selection of greys, and we've got a selection of greens, as well as blue wool for the ocean. This also has a fantastic preview feature, so you can get a really good idea of what you're going to see here. So if we were to use more textures, that would just look a lot noisier, which I've learned by experience. And one of the other things we're going to be doing as well is actually tidying up a lot of this and changing out some materials for different ones. But for now, we just need to get it into a world, and we have different options on how to do this, but the best one in my opinion is to download the data pack file. You can then drop that into your data pack folder and start using the mural and bring it into the world. So here comes the exciting bit. First of all, what you always need to remember to do is to go up by one block. This always catches me out whenever I do this, and I've had to do it many times in order to figure out all of the things with the image and make sure everything is correct, right? So I'm kind of used to this now. So we run this one right here, and there we go, it has created it. Let's fly over here and check this out. You see, we now have the map in block form here in this world, and if we were to build it in the Nether in the correct location, and you have a portal over here, that's where you'll come through on the other side in the overworld. If you were to have a portal in this spot right here where I believe the enchanting station is, you go through the portal, that's where you'll come out on the other side. But we are far from finished yet. There is much more to be done here. So the walls of this hub are going to be diagonal. They will be made out of black concrete blocks, and they're going to go up 40 blocks, and then the top will just be plain black concrete above the entire region of this. And that's because you're going to spend a lot of the time flying around with rockets on your elytra, looking downwards at the map to find the portals you want to use to go to the overworld. So considering the scale of this project, it doesn't make sense to put a lot of effort into this. Now the blue wall that I've used here is actually going to be replaced with carpet with a very good reason. It is going to hide light sources underneath it so that most of this can be luminous in the Nether, because the Nether is rather dark. It also makes the land pop up with this 3D effect, which is really nice. Now if we zoom out here, you'll see that there are rivers and whatnot flowing through pretty much most of the place, so that means that light will be able to reach many places here, and if it just so happens that we need a spot of light somewhere else, it'll be no bother to add in, let's say, a green carpet. Now when it comes to the borders of these lands, we're going to get a little bit artistic and take some liberties with tidying up some of the terrain to make it look a little nicer. So we're going to tidy up the beaches. We're also going to make the rivers nice and concurrent, might be the word. You know, basically make it so that you can clearly see where the rivers go, rather than have this 1:8 representation, which means a lot of the rivers get broken up. So this doesn't have to be accurate, it just has to look good. Now because this is being built in the Nether, mobs will be able to spawn on these blocks, which is why we're going to cover everything in light grey stained glass. We will still have light to make things luminous. We'll also get a little bit of depth from using the carpets, and the glass is kind of neutral if we pick light grey. We tried a few other colours as well, and we also tried matching some of the terrain to the glass that was on top of it, but we agreed that this looked best. Now to do all of these jobs on a really large scale, I'm going to have to use World Edit. It's got some powerful tools where I can replace all of the wall with carpets and then simply put some glowstone below, and we're essentially going to build a mock-up of the hub that we can then use the creative world as a reference for building it in survival. I'm also going to be doing a few other things like removing some of the land masses around the outside here. All of this is actually going to get replaced with some blue for water. The reason being is that we just kind of want to focus on the main island, and I don't think anyone has actually built on some of these other land masses that are represented. You may now be thinking about people who have bases outside this region. Well, we're going to have these big flat black walls for them to decorate. They could build whatever they like on here to then signify where to go. I, for example, am somewhere over in this region and I have a nether portal. So what I could then do is come over here and punch out a hole big enough for me to fly through with my elytra and then create a elytra tunnel behind it so I can get from this area through to my hubs off in the distance. And I believe, my friends, that covers just about every angle that we could think of when creating this map. And there is actually a couple more things that you'll see later on when it's actually finished that are really going to make it pop when it's done. But this idea was something that I just couldn't convince the hermits to do later on. Earlier on in the season. So if you've been watching me since the very first season of Hermitcraft, I had my own personal nether hub where I built a small one, probably not much bigger than the size of this room right here, where I had a map on the floor and I had glass on top of that and I could see where to go. And it wasn't until I found that mural generator where I could actually create it inside the world that I was able to convince the other hermits that it would be a good idea. So we all got together, we figured out the plan of how this is going to work, thought through all the logistics, and we've even got a list of all the resources we're going to need and the different jobs that people want to do to help with it. Now the location is obviously going to be right here, and we thought very carefully about how to approach doing this. We're actually going to start by building the map a couple of blocks below down here, so we can build it under the hub and keep this one working functionally until that one is finished. Now there's another reason we want to build it at this height as well, and that is because of the height of the nether ceiling. You see all of that netherrack around there? It generates at about Y100 on average. And so if we were to build our hub higher up, that means we'd have to do more digging of netherrack in the ceiling. And we want to do as little digging as possible and take advantage of the big open space that we have here. So for that reason, our ceiling will actually end up being under that height, and that means that we do less digging overall. So the project starts like this. We figure out roughly where the center is. I believe it is below this block here. So there is a staircase leading down below, and then there are slabs. This is going to be the very basic floor of the entire thing. Above it, we're going to have our layer of lights where we need them. If we don't need them, we'll probably just fill it in with netherrack. Then we have our material layer, and then we have the glass layer. And I've made it so that the glass layer is 2 blocks below our old hub, so we can walk around on it while we're building it. So there is plenty of space, meaning, you know, while it's in construction, we don't have to tear down what is up above. Then there are slabs going out in each direction, and we are just working with rough measurements to begin with. So these go out by like 130 blocks, and when I double check or confirm exactly where the very center is, I will then build out the borders that I've already done so everything is block perfect. Now this allows the other hermits to come in and get involved. They can slab everything in the middle, and they can start to dig out all the space above. And as you can see, with big open areas like this, a lot of the work is actually already done, so it's very convenient that the space this thing is located in is mostly open, but there are large chunks that need to be removed, and they need to be removed pretty much all the way to that height up there. So it's potentially going to be a long project. Then again, this is Hermitcraft, and we've done big digs in the past. Season 5, for example, and we did one in Season 4 actually in the Nether. And in the Mesa, that's the one. If you're wondering why there's slabs here and not quartz, I did a ridiculous thing during a live stream. I was deep in thought, talking to my audience, and for some reason I came back here to pick up more slabs, but in my mind I seemed to think that I needed to sleep in a bed, which I guess is something that I routinely do, right? I run back over to where I have my ender chest and all my other things organised, and often there is just a bed. Well, my bed's gone because it blew up. So there's a bed lying nearby. I don't know why. I put down the bed, I got killed, I blew up. Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. So back to creative mode to finalize the list of materials that we need and get the hub looking just right. In my hand you'll see I have a wooden axe. This is because we are now on a server that has World Edit, a very powerful tool, and I'm going to show you one feature of it that helps us count all of the materials that we need. Now this right here is a map of the world, and it occurs to me that maybe you're not too familiar with how it looks. Because us hermits play on this world and we constantly look back at the map, it all makes so much sense to me. So this area here would be where my kelp farm is, and this direction that we're looking in is north. So over on the right hand side, Grian's base is around there. The shopping area takes up this area. On the left hand side of the world we have the industrial area. Concorp is in that region, and up there at the top is a future project. That is the reserve district, which we are going to be opening probably in a couple of weeks. Now one of the things that I've done here is I've come round and I've refined all of the edges. I've removed even the clay block and tidied things up and trying to get the palette looking reasonable in each of the areas. Made the rivers much more defined, so this isn't entirely accurate, but it represents the world itself so much better. So where we have a different biome over here with a darker shade of grass, we actually have the right mixture of blocks to represent that. We've got some snow in the world, of course, on the tops of mountains, and I've gone around and put sand on all of the beaches. So in this area, which would actually be representing an 8x8 section of blocks, there might actually be more grass than there is sand, but I think it's important to show the sand and the beaches over here in the world. Now another important thing to mention is that this can be subject to change, because in this world terraforming occurs. For example, over in this space we have the statue of Hermity, and then I've been working on those stretch of islands which I've been converting to sand, and I've come and actually converted those to sand in this map as well. For example, this beach over here wasn't all sand, and as the hermits go around changing the world, I think it's important that we make the terrain match here in the Nether so it's more representative. However, we're not of course putting buildings into this, although we will do something in the future. And I've just noticed there is a blob of that. They're so easy to miss, little things. So yes, I've taken all the little pools of the water out of the world as well. That's another thing I've done. So that is my artistic touch-up of the map, and obviously the next thing we need to do is calculate what materials we need to gather for this project. I've already done the math for the walls and written down those numbers. They're very large. You'll see them in just a moment. I do want to show you a very powerful tool in World Edit that helped me figure all of this out. It is the select tool, but you can do a type called poly, and this allows you to create a polygon. So I start off by clicking in this corner. Then what we want to do is whiz all the way over to the next corner, and this is because usually you make a cuboid selection, and that doesn't work with diagonals. We want to make sure that we are selecting these blocks. So I've now set position 2 over here, and when we whiz over to this corner we will then select position 3, which is kind of like a big triangle, right? From that space to that one to this one over here, you can now see we're working with 17,000 blocks. And when we make our last selection, that of course doubles up to 35,000. Well, not quite double, but then we do slash, and I'm pressing the wrong keys, DSITR, which I think is short for distribution, and that is distribution of blocks. So what it does is it counts everything inside of this region, puts them in a list, and gives us the numbers. So we know that we need 26,000 blue carpet. We also need 26,000 glowstone, because that's what's going to go underneath the blue carpet. Yeah, the next step for us hermits is to do a heck of a lot of resource gathering. So on the screen I shall display the ridiculous amount of materials we need to gather to make this Nether hub happen. Yep, absolutely crazy big project ahead of us, and there is another thing we need to do, that is figure out the exact center. I've got it right here, and I've estimated roughly where I thought it was in the overworld, and then devised these coordinates for the Nether dimension. And here in the Hermitcraft actual Nether, I have then gone and put this block on those coordinates you saw a second ago. So this is the actual center of the hub, and earlier I showed you me placing all of these slabs where the borders went to, and we did this with some leeway, which I believe is around 7 blocks, and from there to there I believe is probably a little bit less than that. So we shouldn't have placed a single slab that didn't need to be placed, but now what I've got to do is go all the way around to those borders and place the slabs at the bottom in the correct place. And I'm also going to gather up some black concrete so we can start to put the edge of the walls in place as well. And look what I've just found. It's a Giarian head. That Grian has set up a competition where you have to collect all of these heads and you'll find them lying around the server. I reckon he's probably hidden another one in this room. Yes. Yes, he has. I didn't expect it to be up there, though. I guess I will have to pillar up to get it. And there's another one over here. These are not that difficult to find. Look, there's another one here. I was only going to go make some black concrete, and now I have been distracted. But with the time I have left, I really need to stay focused and get this Nether hub ready for the other hermits. So I made a path from the center, the correct amount of blocks to the edge, and I now know exactly what we need to do here. And as you can see, this falls well within where we built these slabs before, so none of these will be wasted and needed to dug up. And if you're wondering why I just didn't jump straight to this, it's just the order of events. I had a live stream where it would have been convenient to start work on this, so that's why sometimes we do things in these sorts of orders. Now, we have the slab floor, then above it we have our layer of lights, which would be where we're going to place these. And we're putting cobblestone around the outside to make sure this is all blast resistant. So there go the carpets. In all of the corners there is actually going to be carpets. They must have a light source underneath. And then we start building the walls up like this. And you know what? Before we build much of this at all, we should really finish this because it's blast resistant. So if a ghast were to shoot at me right now, it's going to blow up the carpets and the sea lanterns. This turned out to be an unfortunately bad corner to start the wall in, the concrete wall, because there are obstacles all around. But essentially, we would come up to this height here, and then I leave a cobblestone block and a black concrete here to show what height the actual ceiling is at. But I will need to do that in a corner where it is all open, so it can be far more effective for the other hermits to figure this stuff out. So in this corner, we get a much better view of how high this thing needs to come to. Although it's actually going a bit higher because there's some netherrack up there, but that will be the start of the roof. And if we look down to the corner here, you'll see that that's going to come across diagonal like this, which means I've actually pushed it out a few 2 blocks many on this side here, which I believe also means there is another side that's been dug out a few too many. So I need to take care of those, but I am running out of time to play today, and I've just about put together some essentials for all of us to start working on this project together. And Carbon False are over here helping as well. It's probably going to get done a lot quicker than you expect, knowing us hermits. Everyone's eager to get involved. It's going to be a fantastic project. This is where I'm going to wrap this episode up. If you have enjoyed it, then leave a like. It helps support the video here on YouTube. And as always, your support is appreciated. And I will see you very soon with another one. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.